with just around a month left until the All-Star break, let's take a look at who I would select for the All-Stars this year. The rules and regulations for the All-Star format this year is having still 12 selected from each the East and the West. However, once these have been selected, they do not have to be positional, so it doesn't have to be 2 point guards, 2 forwards, and a centre in the starting lineup. Once these are selected, they are then sorted by USA versus the rest of the world. The USA needs to have 16 players, while the world has 8. Then they divide the teams into one world team and 2 USA teams of 8. I'll explain if there's an uneven amount later what happens. Just before we get started, remembering that this is who I would vote into the All-Star game, not what I predict is going to happen. Going ahead and looking at the East All-Stars, we start with Tyrese Maxey, who has put on a phenomenal MVP candidate type season for the 76ers this year. Each year has continued to improve, and it's clear that he has solidified himself this year with a breakout season, increasing his points per game to 31, his assists to 7 per game, averaging 1.8 steals, which is in the top 10 in the NBA, while averaging 48, 40, and 88 splits. This will make him a second-time All-Star. Next, the Cavs have struggled a bit this year, but Donovan Mitchell has certainly been a highlight, averaging 30 points per game, 5.5 assists, 1.5 steals, as well as a career high in field goal and three-point percentage. He's a big reason these Cavs are still in playoff contention. Making Pistons basketball relevant again, Cade Cunningham over the last 2 years has led these Pistons to be an exciting, young and up-and-coming team. He's averaging 27 points per game with 10 assists and 1.5 steals, and frankly, he's the most important thing to Detroit and has clearly pushed themselves to another level this year. Continuing these elite run of guards in the East, Jalen Brunson, another 30 point per game scorer, 6.3 assists, and has the Knicks in the 2 seed at the time of recording this, has been an excellent performer, although the Knicks have struggled at some points. He's been phenomenal. The last true point guard on this list is Josh Giddey, who has been one of my personal inclusions for averaging nearly triple-double with 19 points per game, 9 assists, 9 rebounds, and 1 steal, while averaging a career high from 3, which is one of the main reasons why OKC moved on from him, is because of his lack of a 3-point jump shot, having to him being benched in the playoffs and unplayable. So I reckon Josh Giddey deserves an All-Star nod. I wanted to include a Raptor in this list, and it was between Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram. Together, the pair have been playing some really good winning basketball at times, but I've elected to go with Scotty Barnes, who's averaging 19 points per game, 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks, 8.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists, while also having a rise in field goal and 3-point percentage, therefore deserving an All-Star nod. Truly an example of addition by subtraction. Jaylen Brown has proved he's been a MVP contender this year, stepping up in Jason Tatum's absence. While people said it was a gap year, he has been phenomenal while increasing his field goal attempts a lot to 21 field goal attempts per game, averaging 30 points per game. Between him and Derek White, they are helping the Celtics not take a gap year, and with the optimism of Tatum returning this year, this could be a real scary team. A no-brainer for me here, Jalen Johnson, 24 points per game, 8.5 assists, 10.4 rebounds per game, as well as having 2 stocks a night and a career high in 3-point percentage. Is a clear and obvious choice, as Jalen Johnson has been far and away very impressive, and so especially at the start of the season when the Atlanta Hawks look like a real dangerous team. This next one might be a bit questionable, but Giannis, I believe, even though his lack of games due to injury, is helping lead this helpless Bucks team. Obviously may not qualify to the voters because of the games played, but he's been an All-Star since 2016 and pretty much been averaging the same numbers all throughout his All-Star games, throughout his MVP seasons. Another one of my fringe All-Stars here is Pascal Siakam, who is leading this very beat-up Pacers team, who just can't find any health. Despite Tyrese Halliburton being injured, a lot of their players, they cannot consistently get on the floor. Pascal's averaging 24 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals, and I believe he's eligible for Fringe All-Star. Next up, Norman Powell, who is someone who I believe won't get an All-Star game nod and probably won't be participating this year, but I believe he's done incredibly well, 24 points per game with a 50% field goal percentage and 42 from 3. So I reckon he's very deserving of an All-Star game, taking a jump up from last year and seeing exponential growth to help this Heat team. With a bit of a veteran presence, especially in the absence of Tyler Hero, he's been a massive step up and a massive help to this East team. And my last spot for the East goes to Jalen Duren. No surprise here, 18 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, a steal and a block. Jalen Duren has become a young leader, and very famous clip going around of him mentoring and grilling Asar Thompson to get into the right position and rewarding him after he does said thing on the next possession. He's an incredible leader and a real reason why these Pistons are the first seed in the East. Moving on to the West, where the East was predominantly American heavy, the West is clearly, pretty obviously as you can see here, very international based. No surprise for these first couple guys, but Luka Doncic averaging 33.5 points per game with 9 assists, 8 rebounds and 1.5 steals. And he's, however, shooting a career low from 3. But these numbers and the fact he's playing in a big market in LA proves that he should be in the All-Star game, and there's no doubt about it. Although the incredible start to the year with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and his Thunder, people saying they may beat the Warriors' all-time record, Shai's been an incredible MVP candidate this season, averaging 32 points per game, 6.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 1.5 steals on almost 50-40-90 splits, which is just incredible for a player of his caliber. Steph Curry is another one of these guys who just continues to be a lock year after year, averaging 29 points per game, 4.5 assists, 4 rebounds, and 39% from 3. He was never not going to be mentioned on this list. Again, another guy who's looking at MVP conversations and is doing incredibly well for his Wolves. Anthony Edwards, 29 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals on 50-40-80 splits. He's truly been incredible and a real leader for this Wolves team, a real upside for what they have to come. Jamal Murray has been incredible, not only in Jokic's absence, but the whole season he's done extremely well, averaging 25.5 points per game, 7 assists per game, and has been good alongside Jokic as well as in his absence, and currently averaging or shooting 45% from 3. Kevin Durant is another one of those guys who just continues to be a lock year after year, averaging 26 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists on 50-40-90 splits. Truly incredible from Kevin Durant at his age, performing for the Houston Rockets. A big surprise this season and one of the candidates for most improved player of the year, Danny Advia this season, averaging 26 points per game, 7 assists and 7 rebounds, while shooting 54% from the field goal, 36 from three-point range and 80% from the line. Denny has stepped up incredibly into one of the premier faces of the league and has helped Portland contribute to some real winning basketball at times. I did question Kawhi Leonard on whether he would be healthy coming into the season, and while he did deal with some minor injuries, he's been incredible. And since coming back, he's averaged 28 points per game, 2 steals, half a block, 6.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 96% from the free throw line. He's been incredible, and in a Clippers season that has looked lackluster, he's been a real shining light. Another player who, like Giannis, may not meet the game's criteria for the selectors to select him to play, Victor Wembanyama is averaging 25 points per game with 3 blocks, 11.5 rebounds and assists, shooting 52% from the field, 37% from the three-point line, and 84% from the free throw line, Wemby's freakishness never ceases to amaze anyone, and he's truly incredible and deserves another All-Star nod. Again, year after year, Jokic continues to perform and was seen as the league's leading Iron Man for the last couple of years. Jokic is averaging 30 points per game, 11 assists, which is a career high, and 12 rebounds a game, shooting 60, 44, 85 splits. Although Jokic's recent injury, he has more than proved himself enough to earn an All-Star game, even if he doesn't play until the break. Sengun, who is compared to as the baby Jokic, averaging 22 points per game, 9 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 1 block. Sengun continues to rise and be a star in this league. Bit of a fringe all-star for the West, but the Rockets truly deserve a second one, and Sengun has been amazing this season. This last one was a little hard to select, but Chet Holmgren, 18 points per game, 2 blocks, 8 rebounds, 57% from the field, and 80% from three-point line. Incredible record. He's another one of these fringe guys. Chet Holmgren deserves this due to OKC being such a winning team. However, it is contemplated me changing this due to OKC's recent struggles. These are the people I believe are the real snubs for this year's All-Star game. James Harden, incredible to start the year, just hasn't seen the same production as of late. LeBron clearly just hasn't played enough games. Keontae George has been amazing. Same with Larry Markkinen. However, this Jazz team isn't looking that great at the moment, so probably doesn't deserve the All-Star quite yet. Michael Porter Jr., the same thing. It's been incredible. However, this Brooklyn Nets team has not been that great. And Paolo, proved All-Star, but this year he has been struggling quite a bit, so this may be a gap year for him to take as an All-Star. So like I said earlier, there has to be 16 USA players so they can field 2 teams of 8. That means the NBA, in this case Adam Silver, will select 2 additional players to join the USA squad. One of them who I think should be an All-Star this year, and one who I think the league will pick. But this will leave the team tallies with 16 for the USA and 10 for the world, leaving 2 teams with 8 for the USA and the world team to have 10 players. And I believe those 2 players will be LeBron James and Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr., like I mentioned earlier, has been incredible this season, albeit for the Nets record. He's really stepped up as a scorer while dealing with his injuries, while also managing to pass the ball at an incredibly efficient rate and averaging a very high amount of assists on this Nets team with lack of experience. While LeBron James is the one who I think Adam Silver will include purely for his name and status. Not to say he doesn't deserve to be there, but LeBron has missed a lot of games and will be placed in there, I believe, by Adam Silver purely because it's LeBron James, and this will be one of his last seasons. Here's a final look at each of the All-Stars that I picked for this year and how many All-Star appearances they will have obtained given they are put into the All-Star game this year. Again, the USA will be made up of 2 teams of 8 and the world team will be made up of 10. Sometime before the All-Star game, there will be a draft format where 2 players from the USA will select other players from the USA to play on their team. The game length will be 12 minutes, and each team will play each other once in a tournament-based style. Each team will play each other once in a 12-minute long game, and once they've played each other once, the best 2 records will advance into a grand final where they play against each other. This is the final look at my selected All-Stars going to Los Angeles All-Star Weekend this year. And as well, before things ended up, I wanted to give my opinions on the recent Trae Young trade. For both teams, this doesn't change their salary cap table much at all, with Trae Young having a player option for the Wizards next year and CJ McCollum being an expiring contract. These sum of contracts of McCollum and Kispert are roughly the same as Trae Young's year-to-year salary. So essentially, Atlanta get the contract of CJ McCollum for this year, and he's a free agent next year, and Corey Kispert will remain there for a couple of years, while the Wizards have Trae Young for this year and a player option for next year, which Trae Young will most likely accept. From a basketball perspective, I truly do think this helps Atlanta, having that veteran point guard in a very young locker room will be very important, as well as Corey Kispert is a very good contract for a swing guy that he is, and can be very beneficial to if this team does compete in the playoffs for the next couple of years. However, this will leave a gap at point guard for next years to come, and I do believe they should keep replacing those with veterans for the time being, and it was the right move to move from Trae Young for now. Even though Trae Young has been incredibly good for the franchise, it was time, and Trae Young will now have a much better situation in Washington, where he will be around a lot of young guys and can help the development of these guys, as he is a very unselfish pass-first point guard. While the defense is a concern for Trae Young, it is important to know that Washington still aren't really in that contending timeline. So trading for Trae Young just allows the development of these other guys while not putting the stress on them to win as much basketball games as Atlanta needed him to. There's been many reports coming out that Trae Young may not play much action or no action at all throughout the season. I would hope that Washington don't bench him and allow him to get a bit of time with Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly and the likes going into next season, as he can really help them grow. However, the Washington Wizards have traded this year's first-round pick to the New York Knicks, which is top 8 protected. This means that if Washington finish 8th or higher in the lottery towards the top end, they will keep their first-round pick for this year, and New York will instead get 2 second-round picks. However, if this first-round pick finishes 9th or lower in the lottery, towards the bottom end, pick 30, this means that New York will get their first-round pick this year, which kind of incentivizes Washington to lose more games, and hence benching Trae Young may not be a terrible idea for their long-term future. My overall thoughts on this trade is Washington lost a very good mentor in CJ McCollum, as you could see his importance that he was to that team in the short time he went there, but gained an experienced point guard who can go with the team in their timeline and be a veteran as their players start entering their primes, and will be a good leader for them during that time frame. And Atlanta gained a good veteran point guard they needed to push themselves in the playoffs amongst a very young team. So overall, this is a good trade for both. Although Atlanta would have expected a pick, you can't argue the benefits for both teams.